Boom. All right, let's get into it. Let's try to make this one a little bit less time. So we have the Handmaid's Tale episode 2. We start off by meeting new Glenn. As you recall from episode 1, old Glenn, at first, Offred didn't like her very much, but then she started like telling her little secrets or saying little stuff to test her out, and then she eventually told her she's a part of the revolution. Well, now she goes out to go shopping, and there's a new Glenn. She goes and she meets him. She's like, "Where's Glenn at?" And the new lady's like, "I am Glenn." So now we see that their names are based on where they're from, who they live with, because or else the lady would have had her own name. So that was kind of weird. They are trying to figure out what really happened, and they're on the way to go shopping. And this episode is mainly about Glenn at first. So they show that the original Glenn is a lesbian, and that she was married, and she was very smart, and that she used to work at a place that was similar to where they live, but they've taken all the signs down and changed a lot of things, so she doesn't really know where she is. And that's something that Offred had not noticed before. She starts to kind of convince Offred to join them in something called Mayday. And Offred is kind of weirded out by it. She doesn't really know. So on the way back home, she sneaks and tells her, "There are eyes watching you in the house." And I was like, ooh, this is a good turn. So she gets back home, and Nick, the driver, tells her, "Don't trust Glenn. She's a dangerous person. If we catch you talking to her, you could get hurt." So she doesn't know if Nick's looking out for her or if Nick is eyes or whatever. So that kind of makes her look at Nick in a different light. So when she gets in the house and she gets settled in, all of a sudden the birthing vehicle comes around. And when the birthing vehicle comes around, we notice that all the handmaids have to go. And we go in, and we're not really sure what is happening. There are, the wives are there, and they're in their teal outfits. That's how we know they're wives immediately. And they're on the floor, and there's a wife on the floor, and she is hollering and screaming. And all the handmaids are there. There's lots of food there. And Offred sneaks off, and she goes and she sees that it's Warren having a baby. And Warren is actually Janine, which is the lady with her eye gouged out. So she didn't really like Janine at first, but a familiar face is a familiar face. So she goes up there, and they're helping Janine get through labor. And then you hear Aunt Lydia say, "Oh, it's time." They go downstairs to get the wife. They bring her upstairs and put her in this like archaic looking birthing chair. It's weird. And she gets behind Janine and pretends like she's having a baby. So she literally hollers and screams and pretends to push and everything. So Janine has the baby, and they flash back to when Alfred and Luke had their baby, Hannah. And she had Hannah. Hannah was healthy. Everything was good to go. And then all of a sudden she reached over for her a couple hours later, and the baby was missing. So she's running through the hospital. Luke's running trying to find where the baby is. And then they stop, and they see a mom trying to steal the baby, saying the baby's hers, which is clearly not, because the baby is mixed. And that's when they see the importance of how desperate people are to have a baby. This is when Hannah is very little. So keeping in mind that they caught Alfred and Luke and Hannah when Hannah was at least 5 or 6. So she had plenty of time to leave, but she didn't. So she flashes back in, and she's realized that Olive Warren, aka Janine, has actually pushed out the baby. It is alive. It is crying. And all of the wives are like, oh, this is a miracle. This is wonderful. Let's go eat some party food. And the woman of the house takes Janine's baby, gets in the bed that Janine originally was in, and has the baby in her arms like she just pushed out a baby. Meanwhile, Janine is just sitting there confused. So it's just really weird how she was behind her, like really weird. Anyway, the baby was a girl, and they take her and then they leave. And on the way, Serena Joy starts being a little nicer to Alfred, and she's like, well, did you get to see your friend? Did you get to spend time with your friend? How awesome is this? It could be us soon. When they get back, she realizes that Nick has a message from her from the commander, and he wants to meet her in his private quarters, which is a no. When she goes to meet him, she realizes he wants to play Scrabble. Weird. But if you think about the fact that the women are not allowed to read, they're not allowed to write, they're not allowed to be normal to, in a 2017 lifestyle, playing Scrabble is pretty darn interesting. So she's playing Scrabble, she's letting him win, kind of realizing that he's trying to build a relationship with her, flirting a little bit, which was weird too. And it was just so weird. So the next day, she goes out again, and she goes to tell Alfred about, hey, I was in the commander's quarters. I wonder if this is what happened to the girl before me. What do you think? But before she opens her mouth, she turns around and she sees the new Alfred. And she's just like, F me. Whew. So that's episode 2, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Woohoo, I did it in 8 minutes. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please like, subscribe, and comment. Refer a friend if you have any suggestions on any other shows I should be watching and or commenting on. Let me know.